1 year ago, I bought a Strandberg. Here are my thoughts. About 6 weeks into my first semester of music school, I developed a pretty significant forearm pain. And that was a huge problem because it actually stopped me from playing guitar for a week, and I realized at that point that if I wanted to have a solid, long career in music, I was going to need to make some changes. If you go on to enjoy this video, please hit the like button, it really helps me out. And also subscribe while you're down there and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos. At the links in the description, you can find me elsewhere on the internet, in particular Instagram and TikTok. I'm more active there, I post more often, and if you're interested in my production or mixing services, the best way to get in touch with me is through direct messaging on one of those platforms. By the way, the song that just played is a demo that I've been working on for the last few months. If you liked it, let me know in the comments, and I'd be happy to move towards releasing it in other places so that you can just stream it on its own. One of the things I've started doing is wearing these, which are like wrist guard things. They're like straps that go around my wrist, give it a little bit of extra support. These help a lot. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll link the ones that I have in the description, but there are a bunch of ones that they're basically just compression straps. And those help a little bit. But for the amount that I play guitar, and the amount of shoulder issues that I have from carrying a heavy guitar to school, I was gonna need something a little bit more drastic. Enter the brilliant concept of guitars that are lighter than 8 pounds. Up to that point in this semester, I'd been using this guitar, which is a lovely Telecaster. It sounds great, it plays great, and it stays in tune, which I really enjoy. It's also maybe the heaviest guitar that I own. And commuting to school with this was not going to be a sustainable solution long term. So I decided, let's get this out of the way early, bite the bullet. I'm going to buy something nice, and I'm going to buy something light. And I settled on this, which is a Strandberg Boden Prog NX 6. Now this guitar is less than half of the weight of the Telecaster. It is designed with ergonomic solutions in mind. It does wonders for my wrist pain, and I feel incredibly lucky to have it. And I want to talk about it today because I think I can offer an important perspective as someone who is incredibly skeptical of headless and ergonomic guitars before I owned one. But to do that, we need to talk about why I picked this guitar over the multitude of other headless options that are on the market. Now, for the sake of transparency, because cost is absolutely something we need to consider, I did not pay the full new price for this guitar. I got a refurbished B-stock one from Reverb, but it was refurbished by Strandberg. So it came with a gig bag, it came with all of the tools, and the list price was $1,850, which ended up being just over $2,000 after tax. That's about a $300 discount off of the list price of a new model. That's pretty significant. Having said that, this is still an expensive guitar, and I don't take that lightly. The other options that are similar to this, first off, there's the Aristides or Aristides. I'm not certain how you say it, but it's the company that makes the guitars out of resin, which are super cool and even more expensive. So that's the main reason I didn't go with them. I did consider it. Otherwise, I know Ibanez makes headless guitars for around the $1,000 mark. They don't quite meet the specs that I was looking for, which is why I didn't go with them, but we'll talk about that later. Obviously, you could go to Kiesel. I don't have a whole lot of experience with their guitars, but the people that I know that do all love them. As far as newer options that weren't available when I bought this guitar, Zeru Guitars, which was started by the owner of Impulse Music Company in California, will do headless guitars for sort of between $700 and $1,200, I believe. They look pretty cool. I haven't had a chance to play one yet, but I'm really looking forward to it, and on the off chance that they see this video, But that's all to say that there are a lot of different options that all claim to do a similar thing. So why did I end up going with Strandberg as opposed to all of the many other good options? It came down to a few particular things that this guitar offered that I couldn't get on a singular other instrument. First thing is the tremolo. Now, I was a bit apprehensive about getting a floating bridge because I haven't always had the best experiences with them in the past. Having said that, that bad experience was a Floyd Rose Special on an import guitar. That's most of the problem. But it was really important to me that the guitar that I get have a whammy bar because I wanted it to be versatile and usable in a wide range of contexts. The other thing is that I primarily play metal music, but I'm going to a school that markets itself as a contemporary music school, but with a focus on jazz. So I needed something that could bridge the gap between what I play and what I would need to be able to play in school. So I couldn't go for something super metal, which is the main reason I didn't go with something like a Kiesel, because I would just spec it out the way that I would use it for my music. That isn't really what I was going for. Some things that I look for in any guitar that I buy, it was really important to me that this guitar had stainless steel frets because I did not want to have to deal with the possibility of a refret in 5, 10, 15 years. It also needed to have 24 frets. Again, it's a versatility thing. Also, sometimes when I'm soloing, I play way up on the neck. Something that I knew I wanted, but that this guitar really solidified for me, was some kind of 5-way blade switch, because I'm not satisfied with just having either humbucker or the two humbuckers blended together. And then the last thing, this is totally subjective, but it needed to play well. Now this guitar ticks those boxes, but again, we'll talk about that. Now, as I alluded to, I was a little bit worried when I got this guitar about the tuning stability because it has the floating bridge and it doesn't have a traditional tuner setup, so I wasn't really sure how it was going to work. I was especially worried about running out of range on the tuners on the bridge. I was also a little bit worried about the neck, which Strandberg calls this the Endure neck. It's their own proprietary neck shape. It's like trapezoidal vaguely with like a flat back. It's a little weird to look at, and obviously it's not available on any other guitars. So that was a concern that I had going in. And then the last thing that I was worried about is like, is headless a gimmick? Up to this point, I'd only played guitars with headstocks. And to be frank, I was a little bit skeptical that just removing the wood here and moving the tuners down to here would make a huge difference in the playing experience of an instrument. I've spent a lot of time up to this point in the video talking about what I wanted and what I was worried about, but let's talk about the realities of owning this instrument. The things that I like about this, and there are a lot, so I'll try to condense this as much as possible. I love the playability. Obviously I was a little bit worried about the neck and the way that it might interact with my hand, but Strandberg are onto something here. This neck profile is really interesting, and while I don't necessarily think I'll always want it on every guitar that I have, I'm really appreciative of this one. When I'm just playing in my room or when I'm commuting somewhere and playing, this is always the go-to guitar. The other awesome thing about this neck is something that you don't get on a lot of other guitars, including other headless guitars, which is the scale length. Now this is technically a multi-scale guitar, though it's a very slight multi-scale. The top E string, the low E string is a full Fender scale 25.5 inches, and the high E string is 25 inches. So it's not quite like a Les Paul scale, but it's shorter. And I've grown to really like that very slight multi-scale because it does make lead lines easier. Now, I don't have the largest hand. My spread across frets isn't the greatest. And so when I'm playing lead lines, especially ones where I'm playing large intervals on a single string up high, which, you know, doesn't happen super infrequently, it's been really nice to have the slightly shorter scale length to keep the frets a little closer together. The portability is great. Obviously this guitar is a much smaller footprint than a lot of other headed guitars that I own. It's also much lighter. The gig bag that it comes with is super handy. It's also small, light, and it has just enough pocket space for a cable, a tuner, some extra strings, and some basic string changing tools, which is basically all I ever carry with me anyway. Additionally to the comfort of the neck, sitting and playing with this guitar because of the cutaway here, and this sort of pseudo cutaway here is one of the best experiences I've ever had with a guitar. I don't actually have another instrument that's comparable to how nice this is to play sitting down. Having said that, it's also great to play standing up because, again, it's super light. You can barely feel it. I don't feel like I'm constricted, especially in this shoulder, when I'm playing with a strap with this. I want to spend a little bit more time talking about the things I don't like, not because I want to make this a negative video or because I don't like this guitar, but because I want you to be aware of the drawbacks with an instrument like this. I don't love the position of this strap button here on the horn. Now, I understand why it's on the back of the guitar, and it's because if you put it here, there would not be enough wood to hold it in. However, it does limit you in terms of strap lock options, which is something that I would like to do with this guitar at some point. Again, it's pretty expensive. I would like some kind of insurance when I'm playing with a strap that it's not going to come off. Now, I do use strap blocks. Those do a reasonably good job, but I would appreciate having the peace of mind of having a strap lock. I just can't do it as easily with this design because it would dig into my chest. The other thing that I don't love about this guitar are the pickups. And this is something that I've heard from other Strandberg owners at various points, though usually they're talking about the Strandberg branded pickups that come on like the OS series. These are Sir pickups, and there's nothing actually wrong with them. They're just not my taste. They're a little bit too sterile and not super responsive, which is just not my taste. Again, there's nothing wrong with them. They sound great for cleans. I really love how this guitar sounds clean, but I find it can be a little bit unmanageable in the high mids with a lot of gain, but that's just totally a preference thing. In the grand scheme of things, those criticisms are a little bit nitpicky. The thing that I want to focus on more is actually the gig bag. Give me 1 second. Transparently, this is the second gig bag that Strandberg has sent me. There was one that came with the guitar, and this is a replacement. And the reason I needed a replacement is because the straps at the bottom of the gig bag were starting to fray and come apart. And unfortunately, I have to report that this one is doing the same thing. I have to retire this one because, as you can see, the strap here is hanging on by a thread. In the defense of Strandberg, they were super responsive the first time around when I needed a replacement case. They had my address on file from when I'd initially purchased the guitar, and they just sent me a new case at no expense to myself, which I really appreciate. However, new, this is a $2,500 guitar. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a case that lasts more than 6 months. And frankly, it's a little bit disappointing because otherwise these are really awesome cases. And I do recognize that I'm putting these through a lot of punishment. I'm commuting pretty consistently on the train with these guitars, but it's gotta be more than 6 months. On a related note, if anyone who's watching this knows where I can get a third-party case that might last a little bit longer, would really appreciate it. I did get a flight case, but I do not want to use that every day because it is massive. So, conclusions. Am I glad I bought it? Was it a good purchase? Yes, 100%. It's been an incredibly transformative experience owning a proper ergonomic guitar. I'm sold on the headless design. I'm growing to like the way that it looks, and it's absolutely got benefits in terms of playability and portability. So much so that I've actually bought another headless guitar. I'm going to show you this much of it because I'm going to make another video about it. You should subscribe and stick around to see the whole guitar, but I assure you it's really cool, and it's not a Strandberg. If I had the knowledge that I have now, a year ago I would have told myself to buy the guitar. It's a good guitar for commuters, it's a good guitar for people who are looking for something ergonomic and different, and it's a good guitar for introducing yourself to the headless thing. I hope you found this video enjoyable and informative. It was a really interesting process for me, going back and reflecting on the year that I've had with this guitar and all of the different things that I've used it for. If you have any questions about the stuff I've talked about, please leave them down in the comments. I'd be happy to get back to you, and I'd love to have a discussion about any of the things that I've talked about in this video. Until the next one, thank you for watching, and have a good day.